Handle Your Business, a weekly podcast discussing a little of this and a little of that. Handle Your Business appropriately blends serious topics with fun topics, all in an effort to help you have a good or better life. So join me, your host, Lady Lashley, and some amazing guests every Sunday at 5 p.m. to explore everything from financial management to dealing with relationship challenges. Put it in your calendar every Sunday from 5 p.m. Tune in to Handle Your Business to get you ready for the week ahead. For more details, follow at Lady Lashley TT on Instagram and Facebook. Handle Your Business. Welcome to Handle Your Business with yours truly, Lady Lashley. Today I have with me Chevanne Joseph, and Chevanne is a Child and Family Facilitator. And today we are going to be talking about a very sensitive topic, and we hope that when you all listen to this podcast, that you actually gain some insight. We're going to be talking about the ordeal of a stillbirth. Thank you so much for joining me to have this conversation, Chevanne.
Thank
How are you
for
doing?
having me. I am good. Here to find scattered showers, but good.
Right, cool. And I have to give you the props because this conversation was actually your idea. You reached out and you said, well, okay, I think I want to share on this, and I have to give you mad props to that, because we're in a space where people, especially women, I guess people, men and women, you feel like you may have a traumatic experience and you don't feel like you can share it. Sometimes it may take a while before people get to a point where they feel like they can open up. I do note that in the area of stillbirths and miscarriages, etc., more and more women in Tobago are opening up, and that has really caused a whole lot of us to be more mindful, more sensitive, and to get some information. And I'm going to start off one time asking you a question, because I actually got reminded of this, and in a sense, like learning it. Let me not say, because I believe when you know something, you know the difference and you act accordingly. So perhaps, although I had the knowledge of it, it didn't register as proper understanding, right? And that is the difference between a miscarriage and a stillbirth. So I want you to explain that for me.
Right. So in layman terms, doctors would give you the professional terms, but in layman terms, the loss of a baby under 20 weeks of pregnancy is called a miscarriage. All right. So once you're under 20 weeks, it's called a miscarriage. Once you are over the 20-week marker in pregnancy, which is basically half of the 40 weeks, it is considered a stillbirth. You could ask them why they differentiated between the types of baby loss. Maybe, I think in my understanding, maybe after 20 weeks, there's a possibility that, a child could live, having certain facilities and things in place, a child will be able to live, but under 20 weeks, you realize, this might be there for the baby. So don't quote me on it. You can check the professionals for the scientific.
And of course, people can Google some of these terms as well, some of this information. Now, the thing about it, some of us are not mathematicians here, and although I have a living child that I did go to the hospital and make, when they say 20 weeks, I start to count my fingers. So this is like about what, 5 months?
16, 20. Yes, about 5 months.
5 months into your pregnancy, if we use 4 weeks as 1 month, right? Just on a rough
4, 8, 12, 16, 20, yes. So
right. So under 5 months, 20 weeks, it is considered a miscarriage.
Right.
And above that, it's considered a stillbirth because of the fact that if there's difficulty in a delivery at 20 weeks and above, the child can still live and grow and thrive.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, all right. So we all have homework to do. We all go, because that's the whole point of it, education and raise awareness. So we will all check that out. Now, I suppose condolences will apply in this case because it's a baby. So condolences on the experience of having a stillbirth. I know through knowing at least one other person that it can be a very difficult period. So I'm happy that you want to share. And we're just going to start off wherever you want to start in this, like, was it a surprise? Did you just actually show up at the hospital?
So I think I want to start to give a little backdrop in terms to get the context of the story, right? So I would have been married for almost a year and 5 months. I don't know, we made that decision here, but the first year we're just gonna relax, enjoy the time. And then, at the 1 year marker, we try to have a baby. Well, come off of any form of contraception, in order to have a baby. So the year would have been in September. So by the February, I would have conceived. And my husband was very, very, very happy. It would have been nice to actually hear his side of it. He was really excited because he's a couple years older than me. So this was his first child, and me loving children. Oh, wow, you're pregnant. So, we were very happy. Me being very diligent and paying attention to details. I tried my best to take care of myself in pregnancy. So I invested, I went private, I went public. I was going both private and public, right, during the pregnancy. For most parts, I had a smooth pregnancy. My husband would have been my nutritionist, always bringing all these healthy things to me to eat, and we always falling out because I'm trying to explain pregnancy cravings, but you're bringing all these healthy things,
Right.
Right. So we basically had a smooth pregnancy. I enjoyed the pregnancy perks, those who know me know that I'm very slim. So I enjoyed having a little size, a little bottom, you can fill up a jeans, the perks of going to the bank. I'm like, I could sit down and just like, okay, you're ready to come, to be served. I would go to food establishments and I'd have to line up, especially roti. I didn't have to line up in a long line. They just see me, come in, what you want.
Yes, yes.
So for most part, it was a very smooth pregnancy. During the pregnancy, we would have made some decisions at that 5 months marker, 5-6 months, the gender was seen. And my husband would have made a decision. He said, you know what, because it's his first child, or our first child, we wouldn't find out the gender. Typical woman. I was upset. I was like, it's my first child. I want to go and shop up on romantic. He said, go, please, it's my first child. Let's just don't find out the gender until the baby born. So we saw the gender. It was written on an envelope, but we gave it to a relative. So we didn't actually see the gender.
Right.
So that was fine. That was, the gender. In terms of the shopping, my husband again, and I given all this context because as we go along in the story, you'll understand why all these details are so important. He was saying, he said, Chevy, don't spend a money on things for this baby, People, we would get stuff, don't don't go and buy any sort of things. And I wasn't really too excited to shop anyway, because I didn't know the gender. So
right.
what can I have bought, right? So I decided, I said, you know what? Okay, I won't buy it, but I created a baby registry. And I decided, you know what? To keep the excitement, even though I don't know the gender, let me come up with a team. So I said, you know what? This team would be an animal team. Anything that I put in this registry would be animals so that it would work for any gender, right? So I would put, stuff like the major stuff. And yeah, surprisingly, people would have bought all this stuff, most of the stuff off the registry. So, I was happy. I didn't, my money was just on eating and, taking care of my health and stuff like that. And that's where it went with regards to shopping.
Right.
So as I explained, I was going both private and public. So I would have been going to the health center around 31 weeks, right? The health center, based on my blood results, they were like, you know what? This looking like this blood results looking irregular. We send you up to the hospital clinic, right? So that was like at 31 weeks. So me going into the hospital clinic at 32 weeks, first visit to the hospital clinic. So, they said, all right, well, okay, based on the baby looking a little bit big, so you know what, we would induce labor at 38 weeks, right? So you're gonna come here, induce labor at 38 weeks, you'll have this baby. So like me and my husband was shocked. He was like, check, wait, only 4 more weeks? Like, we count our head, 5 more weeks, basically. 5 more weeks. Like, we were shocked. Like, we were preparing all the time, but, wait, 5 more weeks, is baby coming? So, going home in the car, we started talking, okay, we need to build up the crib, we need to do this, whatever, and stuff like that. We did attend, we did go to, so just going back a little bit, before the 30 weeks, around 30 weeks, we went to Trinidad and we went to this Lama's class. So, you know,
Right.
they learn everything about the pregnancy, they learn breathing, they show how to cook up your foot and push and, you know, all the excitement and see me as a diligent, you know, individual, making notes on my phone. And one of the categories was like when to know when to go to the hospital and stuff like that. I made sure I made the points on my phone because I was like, right, you know, so you would do. So when they came and said, okay, 4 more weeks, you just come in. That's when we're gonna induce labor. I was like, okay, you know, go back through my notes, checking everything. So that would have been a Wednesday. So the next Tuesday, I had, as I said, I love children, right? So children always by me. So there was a little boy who came by me. They were by me. He was by me with his parents. And come and he said, Auntie, come let me feel this baby move in your stomach, right? I say, you're too early. I say, you're too early. No, the baby would move around 10 o'clock. Right? So this was like minutes to 10. So I remember they left. I went to bed, went to sleep. In the middle of the sleep, I jump up and I say, I wonder if this baby, you know, move 10 o'clock. You know, I just tell him that, right? And I say, I said, Shavi, you know, you go back and sleep. Went back and sleep. So the morning, no, the baby wasn't a morning child, right? So I would get movements in the morning, but not very much. But you see, in the night, 10 o'clock, that's me. I'm nocturnal. So, you know, I would get all the movements, all this. So when I wake up, I tell my husband, I say, I wonder if I'm sure if I feel in this baby moving. So he said, so, you know, I go back to my Lama's notes. They say, drink something cold, tie down on the left side, whatever. No, that was my last, I was running a program, so that was the last day for the program, right?
Right.
So I lie down, I feel the baby move. I said, she wasn't really as I say, a morning child, right? So I said, okay, cool. So I said, you know what, I'll just go. Today's the last day for the program, I'll go. Anyhow, I went to the program and stuff like that. And there, I was telling my supervisor, I said, hey, find this baby moving radiation, I get a time for her to just go up to the hospital and stuff like that. So I did. Went straight into the maternity ward, you know, me like a gangster tomboy said, hey, anybody here could check this baby heartbeat, I find this baby, you know, moving wherever. They probably watching me like that, man. They say, listen, if we have to do it, you know, we have to admit you, you know, you have to go through the procedure.
Right.
You know, I study now, I went to work, you know, I study now, let me go and bed, and things. What I did, I left, I went and did a private ultrasound, and I say, even if I get a heartbeat on, everything is okay. I would still go back and let her admit now. Just go home, collect my bags were packed already, you know, go home, come back up and stuff. On the way to do the private ultrasound, I just started crying. No idea why I started crying. Like I just felt like, nah, man, something probably is wrong. Right? Went to do that ultrasound. They realized something was wrong, but they just tell me, you know, obviously it's not their place to see anything. So went straight to the hospital. So I went back. I'm walking into the maternity ward and I'm crying. I'm like, just like, you know, what you told her. I said, here, she just give me this. So I mean, those moments after a while became blurred, right? I just remember they put me on a bed and they came and they explained, listen, sound like this baby heartbeat is low. We're gonna rush you to do an emergency C-section. Let me tell you all. You see that half an hour preparation, just like what you would see on TV. I did doctors who attended to me and the midwives, kudos to them. It was like ER. Like, I don't even know when my clothes came off, you know, everything was happening at the same time, you know, they're asking all the questions, they're signing the paper, they're taking off your jewelry, everything. I remember just seeing my husband, he come and he kissed me and but I started crying hysterically. And I remember, you know, one particular midwife, she said, listen, if you finish crying, you know, you need to relax and stuff like that. And I don't know, Glendora, in the crying, when they started wheeling me to the room, I stopped crying and I started saying to myself, I say, Sherry, even if something is wrong with this baby, there's nothing that you can do right now about it. Because you're crying, right? And nobody could control what is happening on the inside. So I said, God, only you alone, if something is wrong, only you alone can rectify it. And I lie down just outside the room and I started singing. They come and ask me, say, you're singing? I say, well, you know me, always finding some little thing to laugh about. So I say, well, what do I want me to do at this point in time? Anyhow, behold, went to the emergency C-section, did the epidural, but I think everything was happening so fast that I still started feeling pain, and bam, they put me to sleep. Don't know how long I was sleeping, don't know anything else. But I guess going into the surgery, you had an expectation. It's either a life child or something is wrong with the child.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I really don't know, but I think something happened to me that they had to put me to sleep. Because when they woke me up, I saw my husband on his side, and he was crying, and he said, the baby didn't make it. And I look at him, people might find it strange. I look at him and I say, don't cry. You can make a next one. And I watching everybody else watching me like I'm mad. I think I probably was high on the medication. Right? I could be high, And he came, they brought the baby, I held, it was a girl, so I held her, stuff like that. The thing they explain, it didn't really have an explanation. The baby, when they went in, the baby was already dead. So it wasn't like, anything that they could have done and stuff like that. And yeah, that was it.
Did your husband witness the C-section? Was he?
No, because it was an emergency, no. So he would have just been on the outside. To this day, he don't really talk about what happened before I woke up, right? But I knew that he would have had opportunities to see the baby and interact with the baby before they woke me, right? And I guess they would have asked him to be the one to break the news to me.
Right. So he had to have a quick moment of trauma, cry, get himself together to be strong and supportive for you, and so suppress his own pain to come and bring bad news to you and not cry again.
And not cry. I mean, he was crying, but it wasn't like hysterical. But I think maybe my response when I said, don't worry about it, we would have another one. Because I think people were concerned like how I would have reacted. You're supporting your family. Yes, they would feel it, but they concerned kind of like about how I would feel. So I think maybe my response, I wasn't anyone to at that point in time, go along the place and stuff like that, right? And then then after that we went to they carried me back down to the ward.
Right, because you go to in our general hospital, you move from maternity to surgical to have
so for this one they brought me back to maternity, right? But they did have me, and as I say, kudos, I can't tell anybody had a bad experience with them. They did place me in a room by myself.
Yeah.
Right. So when I came back down, I was on maternity, and then they came back. The doctors, they just came back, and I think they just checked in with me, just to make sure, because it was a C-section, make sure, just find out how you're going. And different midwives came and they talked, but I was not to be quite honest, at that point in time, I don't think what had happened had registered.
Yeah.
Right?
This is what I'm wondering as I hear you talk.
Right.
The shock and the medication.
Yes, right. So remember, they put me to sleep, right? So it's like all this happened, I didn't know anything about it. They bring her baby and tell me this is my baby. But you're looking at yourself, your belly still hard, you're still looking. Like I don't think I don't think I processed it. Right? And I remember a couple of them asking me, how you knew to came to, how you knew to came to come to the hospital, at that point in time. And as I was just diligent, it's just me, a little information that, I just pick up and say, because I kind of forget that part of the story, but when my husband after work, when he picked me up, we were going somewhere else, and I just said, hey, let me just swing up by the hospital. It wasn't like a big decision, it's just like our intuition, I should say, like just tell you swing up, by the hospital. So yeah, and I think so the first night it wasn't so bad. They come to ask me, but whatever medication they gave me, I slept the night. The morning, they came, they talked, and I wasn't in any pain. They told me I'll have to get up and walk, and then they want to discharge me. I said, what? I said, listen, I was not ready to face the world, to be honest. I was not ready to face the world, to be honest. I was like, nah, I stay here another night. I don't care. It's just like I felt like I was okay, in a hotel. Let me just relax myself a little bit.
Yeah, because
Right.
unfortunately, after C-section, and you're teaching me something else because I didn't realize it works the same way. If you had a stillborn with a C-section, during my time on the maternity ward, I learned this, that once you got up, the key to discharging you was that, yes, you have to get up and walk and use the
And go.
bathroom.
So
Yeah,
it was the same thing.
wow.
So now people may say it is I was naive, but in the Lamas class I learned about C-section and whatever, right? But it's when they tell me to get up and walk, it's like I think I was literally shocked. Like I didn't even expect, I don't know if I had expectations, like to feel pain or anything. But when they said get up to walk, I think that's when the reality of everything started hitting home. Didn't stay long, so the next day I stayed one more night. Right, they came, they make rounds. They asked me if I wanted to do an autopsy, right? Just a future reference, and I said, you know what, my husband and I, we had agreed, you know what, let they bury the baby, right? Because I think we didn't want to put ourselves through that, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they would have made that decision earlier because, right, I mean, everybody's perspective is different, but that was just our personal decision to put ourselves through that again. Let's just, you all could, we do the autopsy just for future reference, right? You would want to know if it's something that you would have done, something that you should have changed, something like that, just to have an idea. And we decide that. But the hardest part of it all was leaving the hospital. I would never forget that. So I think they discharged me, but I made a decision. I'm not leaving until after 6, when visitors left and whatever. And I remember the wheeling me out on this wheelchair. My husband went ahead to bring the car and they wheeling me out. And I am with these bags, your baby bag packed, your bag, wheeling this chair, and no baby in hand. That afternoon, when I went into the car, my husband just drove. And both of us were just crying. I cannot tell you what part of Tobago we went because we were just driving all over, like you're just going like on a joy, right? And I tell him, and I'm saying to him, please don't cry, because I couldn't cry because now I'm feeling the pain from the stitches. So it's like I had to keep my mind, like I had to be strong in the mind from early, because even though I wanted to break down, my physical body didn't allow me to do it because of the pain. And I say, I don't pray the injection as I'm not going back in the hospital.
Right.
So I cried, but the tears just running down, but I can't cry and bawl the way I want to bawl because, your stomach creating it. And that was the start of everything people don't tell you.
Wow.
So that's the decision that we would not we made a couple offered their house to us, to stay with them. So I stayed with them for 2 weeks, and God bless their hearts, because I think it really helped the recovery emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So the things that people don't tell you, right? How to say it? One, so even after you're going home and I go by these people, nobody told me that my breast would still produce milk. So I'm now home in this pain and you're having your breast producing milk. They did. Now, when I leave the hospital, they gave me a tablet later, but when they're telling you all the things they're giving you, your mind not calculating that, right? So first of all, I had to deal with that, right? Then I had to get assistance to do anything. I want to sit down, I want to stand up, I want to go in the toilet, I lie down, a car roll over. I'm like I did not know this part of, I remember a midwife asking me, when you go home, you're going by yourself or you're going somewhere? But it's only while I'm feeling all these things, it started to register. right? So I think the pain was a combination of the C-section pain and grief.
Right.
You know, because, you know, we say it in psychology, psychosomatic, whatever affects your mind, affects your body. So I think with the grief and just having a C-section, to me, the pain was out of this world, right? So that part of it was very, very challenging. And then both me and my husband would have been grieving. And I had the expectation that, you know what, he would have been, you know, come with your coochie, but he wanted his space.
Right.
So I kind of felt like
a sense of
you're
abandonment.
by yourself. Yes, you know, both of us went through this, but I had to allow him to get his space. So, you know, his thing would be just going to nature and sit down and process stuff. So, you know, you kind of felt like, okay, people are around you, but I mean, if you don't have the experience, I'm telling you, you could only imagine, you know. So yes, there would have been people around and stuff like that. Then you would have and then you would have the phone calls, you know. But I'm a talker, so you know, the phone calls, I would just say, I just tell people one time so that the questions, because you know, when you tell the story one time and you just say whatever and say whatever, it kind of just kind of
no probing and yeah,
you just tell it, you know. So I think one of the ways that I kind of dealt with it, I just talk. So people ask me, and I mean, like, I talk like an open book, you know, this will happen, whatever, we know whatever the case might be. And that was the journey to recovery. I don't know if you have anything to ask if I go forward, but
yeah, I
just the synopsis of so I'll tell you as we go along how I dealt with it, but that's just basically the synopsis of you know, the hospital and at the end of, you know, coming home.
So I have two questions before you go ahead. Was there any information as to how long on the autopsy, like how long the baby had been dead for?
So it would have been possibly maybe 8 hours, right?
Wow.
So it probably would have been possibly let's say our estimated time.
And of course, no cause. They
no,
can't say
it was basically inconclusive. They just no cause. Based on the autopsy, healthy baby, you know, fully developed. Something would have caused and maybe a lack of oxygen maybe in a few hours. But it wasn't like something that was through the pregnancy where you could have say, okay, this started happening or whatever, you know. So
I really wanted to ask you that because it took me a little bit of time to truly get information that pregnancy can be so fickle, you know, in the sense that, is it like having to accept the loss and accept the fact that you just don't know what happened. And I remember one doctor said to me that this is common, like 1 in 3 pregnancies or something. It's kind of that common where you don't know. So I wanted you to say it out because I know people who listen to this, and hopefully both male and female, especially some of the men, because we do have some men that I think subconsciously blame women, you know, because they don't know. So that's the other part. But moving forward,
I think like I didn't feel to be quite honest, because I think for me, Glendora, I was diligent. I could tell you this week how many pounds I put on, was the size of the baby, what grade my placenta is. I mean, I school myself, you know, like through the pregnancy, you know, and knowing that, you know, in all your diligence, you know,
it's not nothing you
still didn't pick up anything. It wasn't anything that you would have done.
Well, the thing about it, from what you said, I'm not too sure what you could have picked up outside of what you picked up, what you could have picked up, because you have a very short time. I think the shortest I've heard for stillbirth, because I know people who had a baby in them dead for a good bit of time, and they had to push the child out. That's another thing I learned as an aside, right? But what I want to ask you, when you were awarded, you didn't mention this, you talk about they coming in, did they offer you a psychologist, a therapist? Okay.
They did, they did. So they did the needful. As I said, to be quite honest, those 2 days in hospital, the jacket, it was, I cannot complain in any way about service, you know, about what they offered. They really did their best. I think if I was a doctor or nurse, I would be like, this is top of the line. Like,
and what year was this?
This would have been 2019.
2019. Well, I'm happy to hear that. While I had a live birth in 2013, I was there for 14 days, and I can tell you that my assessment was the same. Really, really good service. So I'm happy to hear that.
I tell you that it was and I think the service that I received also made dealing with the whole situation a lot easier, to be honest. Very helpful. Even questions that I might have had, that I asked or whatever, the way that they would have explained it to me, as best as they could. It was superb. So I can't complain with regards to that experience. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I have one more before you move on. As I said that, you talk about getting the anesthesia and being put to sleep. Now, in this case, it's an emergency. Chevanne, don't laugh. I don't want to add too much because of the seriousness of what you're talking about. While I did not have a C-section, I've had anesthesia and been put to sleep. So I understand that confusion because I remember the anesthesiologist, whatever you call him, he's sticking the needle with the thing. And I said, how long before I fall asleep? It was 1 minute to 11. I'll never forget this, right? I was in Trinidad at a private hospital there. And he said in 1 minute. And when I got up, I just know that I was in pain, recovering, and I don't know what happened. So I want to kind of ask you, because I heard you speak about different things happening when you got up, right? You didn't know what's happening. You would have been still on anesthesia, and people listening should not take it for granted that thing makes you high, as Chevy said, right? But when you think back, is there anything at all that you remember before knocking out? Although it was a short space of time, because in your case, it's an emergency.
I remember, so they started cutting. So I guess one side of me got numb, but the other side, right. It wasn't
the epidural didn't kick in too much.
Yes, it didn't have the time to process it. As I say, they were moving top of the line, always watching ER, everything ready, set, go. So I just remember feeling pain, and I remember, I just remember feeling pain, and I was like, nah, I'm pain. And I remember almost like if they're trying to tell me, well, they will try to hold on if it's, pain or discomfort or whatever the case might be. And I was like, listen, I know the difference. This is pain. And I think the doctor, God bless her heart, would have advocated. And she's like, listen, if she's feeling pain, what can we do? I just remember 3, 2, 1. That was it. I remember the
so they actually gave you the anesthesia because of the pain, because you were feeling pain. They put you to sleep.
It wasn't,
Gotcha.
So it wasn't it wasn't. I think I would have in normal circumstances, I would have probably been up for the procedure, right? I guess because I would have been feeling the pain. Yeah, but it was. I'm happy for the sleep. Trust me, I was very happy because I'm not sure being up and or knowing all of this happening, and I would have been awake under the night. It might have been a different.
Do they have this screen up? Like what you see on television?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what I could remember.
Yeah.
In that time, my head was nice. My headspace was all over the place. Yeah.
Wow. But you're pretty strong. I think from what so far what you've said, you have some internal strength going on, because you've mentioned more than once thinking about your husband's feelings ahead of yours. Because of that's it. Maybe it's your job as a psychology major.
And I know what to say.
You understand what we don't understand. Yeah.
You would see things in a book, right? But then there are situations where you have to apply to your own self. So I think the little that I remember at the point in time, I tried to implement it. So even when he wanted his space, I felt how to be honest, right? Because I didn't want to just be. Both of us went through this, I expected. But then I understood in the same way, And well, it could be true of us, but the same in this process, men and women are a little different,
Yes.
Right. So
different.
I was like, what, Chevy? You just had to be, you just have to be strong in the midst of everything that is happening. And
Yeah.
I think it worked out.
Now you're dropping nuggets, and this is the last one to re-emphasize before we move on. For the wives and committed female partners who are in heterosexual relationships, or if you're in same-sex partnerships and all, they have whatever, I don't know. Understanding the other person's need for space. Chevi, you had that in your mind because you're training, and perhaps you are also at your core that kind of caring person, because there are people who are training and they just throw the training out the door. So, you know, give yourself a little kudos for that. But to the women especially, maybe just take it into consideration what Chevi is saying there, especially if you've been married or you're living together. I know it took me personal experiences to realize men really process different, and most times when pressure comes, they want distance. Yeah, they want distance, and as a female, as a woman, we want closeness. That is tension. So let's move ahead, because certainly you would have to deal with that tension. Let's move ahead as to how things happened afterwards.
All right. So afterwards, I think it's more in terms of kind of like how we coped, right? So as I said, God bless the hearts of the persons that took us in for 2 weeks, right? So what that did is that it's managed the crowd control. So for 2 weeks, I didn't really have visitors with the exception of my family, right? And when I say family, nuclear, mother, father, you know, siblings, right? So I didn't have to answer everybody else's questions, you know. So the only way persons could have contacted me was by phone. And you know, when somebody called you by phone, you have a choice whether you can take the call or not, depending on your depending on your frame of mind. So not going home after the entire ordeal helped a lot, right? And it gave me and my husband together the time to process what was happening. And I remember in that 2 weeks, I remember we lying on the bed together, and you know, we said something to each other that we're not going to blame anybody for what would have happened. Right? And we made a conscious decision, you know, because as you mentioned before, sometimes it's easy for a spouse to say, well, maybe something you didn't do. And then subtly, I would have been going through my own guilt trip, in the sense of you start your last set of movements over the few days before, you know, I started reliving it. How I sat, if I stood up, what I ate, did I walk too fast, you know? So at that point in time, we would have made a decision not to blame anyone, right? And I remember having a little notebook, and anything that I felt that comforted me, because, you know, people would send messages and stuff like that. If I felt something that somebody said would have comforted me, I wrote it in that little blue book. I still have the book for today.
Right.
Because when I get emotional, you know, about it, I go back to that. I go back, like that book is my grounding book. I go back to read, you know, what I would have written. And one of the first things that I would have written would have been, it's all about perspective, right? An elderly gentleman, he would have called me, and he would have lost his first child 2 years ago. And, you know, he said something to me. He said, you know, Chevi, with his situation, sometimes you never know. The child might have cost you your time and your money, right? It don't have to be true, but you know that. So when he said that, when I applied to my circumstances, when I had that thought, it made me feel better. I said, Chevi, you know, you don't know what this child would have become. You know, you don't know the future. So the doctor, they might have been like, okay, everything is healthy, everything is well with the child, you know, but nobody really knows. It's only as time go along, only God knows, only as time go along, certain things will be revealed. So I held on to that perspective. There was a quote someone sent to me. It said, focus on what you have, not on what you don't have. And that one, I would never forget it. Powerful. Because I was focused, you know, if I focus, so I try not to focus, okay, you don't have the child, but you still have your life, because I could have died. You still have your spouse. You still have your family. You still have support. You still have a family who was willing to take you in for the 2 weeks. You know, I started counting the things that I would have had, right? So I wrote it down in a book. So I realized, I said to myself, Shabby, this thing is all about perspective. So I remember, so when people came to us and eventually came to check and stuff like that, people cried for me because one, I didn't have the opportunity initially to cry because, as I said, because of the C-section and the pain. So they cried my tears, and I gave them my perspective. And I guess me being jovial, the same way I'm talking now, I was like, well, sometimes I laugh back. I say, what happened in hospital? I recount the story, and I think me doing that would have helped the persons around me. So they were strong too. It just made everybody stronger. Right.
But let me ask you this. Sorry to cut you at this point, but I want to ask you this psychology question about that. Because many times we assume that the way to deal with grief would be to cry. Your personality is one where you're naturally jovial, right? And there are some people, precisely. So there are some people who may react like that. So whereas you didn't cry, could it be that was your form of crying? This is how you cope. This is how you expressed yourself, because you did feel the sadness, even though all the tears didn't run for different reasons. But you decided to, kind of go through. Do you feel, I want to kind of get, do you feel as if you were masking the grief and trying to avoid it? Or this is how you processed it?
It's two things, right? I think part of it is how I processed it. And two, I couldn't cry because I was in pain. When I cry and I hold my stomach, I feel like my stomach ripping out inside of me. So like, to be quite honest, it's like I wanted to cry. I wanted to just hold my pillow and bawl and exhale. But I couldn't because of the physical pain that I would have felt. So I think it's like my back was jammed against a wall and I just had to be mentally strong. And I mean, if everybody knows me, I like hospital, I do like injection. So any thought about going in the hospital again,
right?
I tried to do anything to alleviate that. So yes, I wanted to cry, I wanted to bawl, I wanted to scream, but I couldn't because my physical body didn't allow me to. And I remember one cousin, because I'm talking about perspective, right? I remember he said to me, he said, Chevy, listen, you can't ignore that this thing happened to you, but you can't overthink it. You have to have a balanced mind. So I never pretended like it didn't happen. I talked about it, but then I made a conscious decision, Glendora, not to overthink it too much. No, but I wanted to, I don't want people to feel like, okay, it's just something you can get up and do, but you had to take my situation in context too, right? Because one, I did not know the gender of the baby, thanks to my husband. And I'm very thankful for him up to this day. So I didn't have that, where you have a name for the baby, or you're calling the baby name and stuff, I
like less attachment,
right.
Not attachment.
Less, but
where's called those things?
It's kind of attachment, but yeah, maybe attachment
because you have tangible things,
right?
Okay, gotcha.
So I didn't know the gender, so I didn't have a name and say, okay, I'm calling the baby Crystal and Crystal Guy, and so I didn't have that. Two, I did not push out the baby, right? So I was asleep. So I felt like, you sleep and somebody bring out something and say, this is your baby. I'm telling you, from the mitigating factors that probably would have allowed me to grieve the way that I grieved, right?
Gotcha.
A baby shower was being planned for me, and I might come out and find out. So the change the date, right? So the baby would have died the Wednesday, and the baby shower was scheduled for the Saturday. So I didn't have the dangles before to say I had the baby shower. And remember, I told them my husband to tell me to buy up those set of things.
Yeah.
So I was just waiting with the excitement when the baby come to do all my shopping. So I believe taking these things into consideration, it kind of reduced.
Yeah, that facilitated your ability to not spiral downward quickly.
Right. Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah. Trying to articulate any words to me. Yes, but that way, right? Yeah. So that would have helped in terms of processing it. So yes, I had my times. I broke down maybe more times anyhow, I get to that, right? So
Mhm.
that was what I would have done, right? So the perspective, I was just listening, whatever positive things, if somebody come and tell me something, I would just write down whatever positive thing that I think from it, right?
Mhm.
And what we did is like after the 2 weeks when we went home, we would have traveled, right? So that's part just before COVID came. So we would have traveled for probably 2 months and we lived it up on that trip, Glendora.
Made you
Right. So
appreciate life a little bit more.
yes. So
Yes.
we went because part of the recovery is also walking, right? So we went to New York, we walked, we went to Atlanta, we went to Tennessee, we went back to Atlanta. We lived it up, right? So I got to walk, to help with recovery. When I went to the States, I get to eat all the berries and the raspberries, something to heal up here. So out of sight, out of mind. So, I was fortunate to be able to get some space, out of the environment. Right. There was something else that we did. When we came back from traveling, though, we also relocated apartments. So we didn't go back to where we lived. We had to change,
help to take away the memories.
The memories of, all that would have happened. And there was something else that we did. Oh, and I never stopped shopping, to be honest. Psychologists might say it might be unhealthy. But because I was waiting for this baby to be born, to shop, my desire to shop never stopped. So I still went, and I looked at it because a friend told me something called a baby hope chest, which is you collect things that you would want, having hope that you would have another child again, and you collect stuff. So all when I in the States, my suitcase come back with real baby things. I wasn't even studying myself, right? No, as I say, psychologists, the persons were telling me it's unhealthy, but better. It was expensive therapy. But I went and I shopped. And as I said, I didn't know the gender, but a relative did, so they would have bought good stuff. So I tell everybody, if you had stuff for me, don't worry, bring it. I would have another child. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I came home. When we came back from the States and stuff, I went. Me and my husband, we opened up all the things people would have bought. He said, "Oh, this cute. Oh, this cute. And I packed up my wardrobe and I kept everything, because I was really hopeful that, I would have another child. So we didn't act like it didn't happen, but we just allow ourselves to go through. So if I felt to buy this and I wanted to buy this dress or buy this blanket and I find it cute, I did that.
But how long after? Because you came back from the States, you came back with things and so on.
Right. So I came back December, right? So if I haven't September, I came back in December.
Right. Okay, cool. That's a cool amount of time. But how long you started actively trying to conceive again? Because if you have all these things, certainly you're thinking, well, it's time to get busy.
Well, according to the books and doctor's recommendations, you have to wait 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, in terms of your recovery, as I say, bring on a doctor, we shall bring a doctor on the panel, right? No, that's what, right? According to the book. But as we know, sometimes with children, it's not always, we don't fully control what would have. We don't really fully control when they conceive, right? You can put things in place, but things still happen. And to be quite honest, I would have conceived just 6 months after the stillbirth, but I had a miscarriage. So I had another loss, right? And then I got pregnant again at 11 months from the first one. Yeah. So I got pregnant again, 11 months. Was it active trying? No, because we were like, I think even especially after the miscarriage, I was like, listen, I don't want to see another doctor, because that miscarriage is another story by itself, right? But I don't want to go and see another doctor. I just want a break. I just want to live up my life, just forget like everything happened, stuff like that. And yeah,
well, I unfortunately want to put you in the miscarriage, if you don't mind going
no
there.
Problem. That's
how many weeks or days you miscarried?
So I would have been 8 weeks. So I would have done an ultrasound, seen the baby heartbeat, everything. When I found out I was pregnant, I made a commitment. I said, Chevanne, not because this happened in the past, it would happen again. So I went in very hopeful. Right. So having the loss from the miscarriage, I think for me, was more shattering than the stillbirth. because I made a conscious decision, you know what,
Right.
I'm still gonna be hopeful. I'm still gonna,
Right. But did
look
that
forward
one,
to this thing. Yes.
did they give
And
you
then
reasons in that one or same thing?
no, it was just, I think that one was just, it wasn't supposed to happen at the time,
One of
It was
those,
too soon.
okay.
When I said too soon, your body, you remember, I've just had a stillbirth, just had a pregnancy, your body's still recovering and stuff like that. So, I mean, I didn't question it much, but I think what I think that one affected, it kind of more shattered my mind because I was still trying to be, I was still trying to be hopeful, like, okay, this could
Gotcha.
happen again and stuff like that. So I think that one more affected my mind
Right.
more than the stillbirth itself, to be honest.
Yeah,
Everybody's
kind of
story,
rehash,
right?
rehash.
Yes, And and other than that, to cope, I would have just drunk myself like in the exercising. So, exercising, be like, still I take a she groove back, And that's basically how I coped, and I never stopped shopping, to be honest.
Wow. That part you have me fascinated by, but I am in my own layman ways wondering if the shopping, as you said, expensive therapy, that's kind of like your therapy. Or the way the tears that you didn't get to cry before.
And I would buy stuff and I would match up outfits and do all the frangadangers and be like, this cute. Anybody could ask me the latest things about babies. I could tell you.
Wow.
Because I was always, and then remember COVID came and happened, right? So we were
nothing else to do.
And it was home, right? So, online had all these deals because baby and people and buying baby things. So things were like dog cheap. So I always cooked in them out. So it's as a psychologist would tell you, if it was actually healthy, well, for me, Glendora, that one made me feel better.
Yeah, that's a therapy.
I didn't really care what anybody think about it. That is what, once it wasn't affecting what I had to do any month, right? But I would have usually given myself like a limit, I'd have been like, okay, if it's 50 US and I go online and I'll pick up things for $3, whatever, I used to just be good.
No, I like how you say that because something I always say, sometimes there are set ways that they say, okay, psychologists, therapists, whoever, even people that care about you. Well, you're not supposed to do this, or you're supposed to do this, or you're not supposed to do that. But I like the fact that even though this was not necessarily something that would be encouraged by the professionals, this was what you felt you needed to do. But you also recognize, perhaps with the higher training, that, okay, this is expensive, so I can't spend all my money just doing this like a drug habit. So I'll give myself a limit. And you kind of went about it in a safe, controlled way.
Yeah. Some months I broke the limit, to be honest, but for most part, I kept within it. But that's what really
But were you in active therapy throughout all of this? Like, were you seeing the psychologist?
No, so I would have made so I was offered at the hospital, and I chose not to use the one that was offered, right? Given my line of work, most of my close friends are therapists, right? And as I say, my personality, I'm a talker. So when I felt like I needed somebody to talk to, or just needed to vent or whatever, I would contact, like I had two friends, either one of them. Because even with the shopping, I thought like something was wrong. And she was like, okay, Chevy, you could shop, you could do this, but have a limit, So she would like kind of put it into perspective, like I have a limit, so you're shopping, But I think for me, for most parts, I just was like, I don't know, maybe my personality is just like, hey, Chevy, cut and go through. It done already happen. As I say, remember I told you when I was going to the room, I was saying to myself, but Chevy, you can't control anything. I felt like if, you know what? There are many things in life that we can't control.
Right.
So, I mean, no, it had triggers, Glendora, to be honest, right? So let me just carry it back a little bit. So even after the baby would have died, the paperwork, right? So going to do the autopsy. Them tell me something about my ID. I thought them tell me bring my ID. I didn't even know what's to come and ID the body, right? So that catch me off guard. I think I just speak. I think my husband went in, right? But I just speak, right? So like I had my moments there. Right. Then I didn't know because of I don't think I mentioned it. So I would have been 34 weeks pregnant, right? At the time of the death. 34 going on 35, right? So I didn't know I had to register like the deaths of the so you have to get like a besides the autopsy, you have an official like death certificate. So I remember going into the place and going in, and I think I went by the wrong building, or the building moved, you know how it is.
Yeah.
And like when the woman told me no, but I said I read all, I started to get vexed, but I read all of that, I bring all the things, and I remember like coming back out and coming into the car and crying. I think I was with one sister, crying, and she just allowed me to cry. So there were those moments. I remember in that first year, I love children, but I can't remember holding a baby girl in those moments. Like I remember holding people, baby, I hold boy children, but because I would have lost a girl, I would think and I would bite into the baby and stuff like that, and I just couldn't go to hold a female child. So I say that I had moments, you had moments. It was spontaneous, it was triggers going back out to work, and staff knew about it. But so my immediate staff knew about it, but when you're coming into our building, you have persons who are staff, but not immediate staff members.
So security officers, etc.
Yeah, they see me. They were like, okay, you go home on maternity leave. So I was prepared for them. The first week when I go to work, I was prepared. I was like, answer and watch me. Then I'm here sticking. The baby did not make it, and me, I'm waiting for the reaction. And I said, okay, no, sorry, no, she didn't make it. From the time I see the reaction, I say, it's okay, I'm fine. And I bounce and I walk. So I was answering everybody because I don't want to come back 10 weeks down the road and ask me what these things.
Yeah.
So I come out for them for the first week.
Chevy, you have real strength.
No, but listen, you see, after the first week, when the miscellaneous question came randomly down the road, it had a different effect because I wasn't prepared for it. I set up my mind, this is what's happening. So that's my approach to everybody that came and asked. But like, how did the baby didn't make it? And I said, sorry. I said, it's okay. And I go on. And that's how I answered everybody, because I came up with that one response in my head. And anybody who asked me a question, I was like, if me and you good enough to give you more details, I give you more details. But then when I answer you, I walk in and me ain't even waiting to watch your face, But it had obviously it had the moments where some persons would ask that question and it would kind of trigger your emotions, But for most part, I just was like, yeah, what should be? I don't know if it's a gangster. I used to call myself long ago as a teenager, like gangster chicks. I don't know if it's
right.
That kind of tomboy part of it, and I just was like, you know what, whatever. And I mean, if I felt to talk about it, like if today you come and I feel like I want to talk about the whole story, I talk it over because that was my way of venting too.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't talk about the story with my husband because, as I say, men grieve differently. So if at 2 days he can listen and we might talk certain things that he never told me, because I said he would have had more exposure to the child than me before the work, So certain things he might give me a little thing. But me, I don't want to frustrate you. That he did it, he says. So if I see and I feel you and I say, I see you and I see you in the supermarket and you ask me and I feel at that point in time to talk about it, I talk about it. We stand up on the lane and we talk about it. So it kind of, I think that just kind of helped me, deal with it and say,
it's so funny, because in the midst of all this conversation about how people identify and so on, what you're saying here, just kind of in my mind, I hope nobody and come at me for this, but it really re-emphasizing what is traditionally male versus traditionally female. But I want to ask you one question with respect to the husband and some of the things. And I wish he was here for real, but is there anything that he told you about the experience that you didn't know that kind of just make you go, like just kind of just, I don't know, shock you, throw you off, something that you appreciated?
He didn't tell me anything directly, but I remember we went to a social gathering and we met another couple who would have lost twins at 5 months to babies. No, they weren't 5 months, they were big, as in, so one was a stillbirth and the other one lived for like a few minutes or whatever, right? So the guy, so it was a couple. So the guy was actually talking about, how he felt about the situation. And he started crying, right? Now, this is just in a social, we went to eat bus up shop, so in a social gathering, and the guy, started talking. We didn't really know them from Adam to say, but I don't even know how the conversation came up, but they realized, okay, we had things in common.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my husband saying to him, every time I look in the mirror, I see the child, because the child would have resembled him so much, right? He didn't say it to me directly. He said it in conversation with the guy. And me, I just act like I didn't hear. I took mental note of it.
Mm-hmm.
I act like I didn't hear. I never asked him a question. Maybe it's when he listened to this podcast, he would hear this part of it,
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think, and I realized, what? There were more. I believe to my family, things would have happened before, but I think they would have made a conscious decision. Maybe not to tell me reactions or how things would have happened.
Right.
I mean, like now we laugh. Sometimes we laugh about it, and
Right.
but I think in a way to protect him, because remember in that stage you're vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So they would have just made a decision. So it's only like years after, like, no, if a story come up, my sister might tell me some kind of little thing, and like laugh about it.
Right.
But I think at that point in time they didn't say anything. Even with the pictures, because I didn't take pictures. We didn't take, but one of my relatives did, and I asked to. They never sent them to me. No, I just asked to see, and I just take one peek. I don't want to. And that's the next thing. We just decided, here, what? I don't want to just.
Right.
I don't want to see it. It done. Like I think, like for me, it just felt like if we had done certain things, it feel like it taught
you're belaboring it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I to me, like I just wanted to move forward. Like life goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for me, part of me felt like I had a second chance at life, going to sleep and waking up. That in itself was an experience. You didn't even know how long you're sleeping for, then you just get up.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I had a second chance at life. And I think I was grateful for life and health itself.
Right.
So I didn't want to carry back myself down in that. That whole.
You do what you need to do for you.
Yeah, so as I say, my reaction would have been probably different, to maybe, the norm,
right,
and stuff like that. But I just cut and go through. I don't know how else to say it, just cut and go through. You did have your moments, as I say. But when I had my moments, I allowed myself to have my moments, because I felt like crying today. I cried today, but I think the crying would have been months after, like after you heal and physically, because I think my thing was, okay, you just want to be better physically. I couldn't take, like, I had to be dependent on somebody to bathe, to go in the toilet, to roll over in bed. So the day I realized I could walk on my, walk front of, I was just like, I gotta scream. What? So I just felt like a second. So I think I really focus on trying to heal physically first, and then, the month after, you would have your moments, as I say, sometimes, when you see younger babies, or sometimes, I think when I went back for the review, and you saw people who were in the clinic with you together, and you seen everybody having a baby, and you have to go back to this clinic for a review, and how it goes sometimes when they go up there, they didn't read the file, so sometimes they ask you, so where the baby? So those one of those kinds of things. So I think I had those moments, but I think it's like it happened, and you just deal with it, and you just move forward, and I think that's how that's how we kind of dealt with it. So it was a time. It was our ordeal, but honestly, I think you see your mindsets and the perspective that you want to have, your belief, whether you believe in God, you believe in hope, you believe in that played I realized your mind could control a lot of things, and that played a very important role in recovering, and I think also having the support, because people around me obviously and want to bring up the topic, and I'm like, so now watching, be like, I know you want to ask, but as I say, I love children, right? So it had children who would come and ask me, and they could come and say, Auntie, but I don't understand what happened to the baby in your belly, And then, you get to simplify it and stuff like that. And, I just talk about it. But, the average adult can come in and really ask you.
Yeah.
They try to avoid the conversation, but sometimes avoiding the conversation makes it even more awkward because you're wrong and everybody gets silent because you don't know what to say. So sometimes I just initiate the conversation, so that people, I believe too, like, experiences is not really for you, people can benefit from it.
Testimony.
Yes, and breaking the stigma of, certain things that you shouldn't talk about, or certain things is to be private and stuff like that. The amount of people I met, who would have told me that they lose children that I didn't know before and after, my experience. You realize, what? If this could happen to them and they could overcome, I could do it too,
Yeah.
And so for me, just always about, okay, how your experience could actually help somebody along the way. And that's basically how how it went.
Most definitely. I really think that as people listen to this episode, you're definitely going to touch a lot of people, because as you said, sometimes in talking to people, and many times even random people, you would not have known that they had a miscarriage or they went through having a stillbirth. And I remember from someone I knew who had a stillbirth as well. She said of her experience that people around her seem to see the stillbirth as no big deal. Now she, as compared to how you expressed yourself today, she was more on the emotional side, right? So she wanted to like have, the funeral and that kind of thing. But even before that, with the experience, the society that we grew up in Tobago and the region, many people just feel, well, okay, you lost the baby, boom, get up, keep moving, don't talk, don't say nothing. And that causes even
more grief.
Yeah, because even as you say that, like with the people, sometimes we find ourselves between two extremes. You find the insensitive people who just come and ask, hey, Chevy, where the baby? Or no, hey, I hear you lost the baby. Just random out the blues. And then you will find those who are trying to be sensitive, and they would just kind of look at you from a distance, avoid you in the elevator, or try to talk about some random thing.
About some random thing. But you know what, this teach, there are two things that, because situations change, right? And it changed me, right? And one of the things that's like, I don't think even to this day, like, I don't even like baby showers, right? Like, I'm like, you know what? Baby showers should be done after a baby is born. I know some people do it in hope that, you're trying to avoid mommy with expenses and stuff like that, right? But because I just learned that it's a thin line. Like sometimes, like, no, I feel like, even like if people invite me to a baby shower, I myself, as I say, change me, like, I don't even want to go. I say, listen, I can wait till the baby's born and be because I know, I picture myself, if I had that baby shower and people would have brought all these items to me and stuff like that, honestly, I think my reaction would have been, different. Because remember, I said they had mitigating factors, right? So, so that would have I know that part of me has changed. Like, I am excited for you. I'm happy. I support you to your pregnancy, but me, I'm giving you a gift after. That's just a personal decision that I would have made. And then
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and then the second thing is, as much as possible, like teaching people how to support persons when they would have lost a baby, because reality is no fault of anybody how they reacted, right? When I told them the news, right? It's because we just don't know. Well, when I said don't know, yes, it's an emotional thing, but
we're not cultured in that way.
Pretty much is like, you know what? To me, I just appreciated people around me just be normal. Like, we could have normal conversations, normal. You could think, come, like, go for something to eat, like, we go for a drink, like, I appreciated, just, I don't know how to phrase it, but just be, like, for me, I appreciated people just be normal, and if the conversation raised, like, if I raise the conversation, like, yeah, we can talk about it. You know, that's, you know, like for me, it's maybe the psychologist would be able to help in that regard, but you know, really, you know, like, you know, when somebody experiences a loss, like how to deal with it. Because I think sometimes what made me think is sometimes person's reaction to it too, you know, sometimes that itself could have been a trigger, and it's no fault of anybody, you know. But I mean, the people who was around me and just behaved normal, kudos to them, you know. Like I remember telling my sister when I said, hey, come, where do you come and call me here now? I just want to come. And here was just like I was all up in one now. That's how I end up in hospital. So, you know, for the C-section, they take out everything. So I feeling rugged. I was like, listen, come on, just give me some plots. Just make me feel, you know, let me go and, you know, fix up my face. I say, oh, my pregnancy clothes by the time 2 days, the look like they're sagging. So, you know, you're in between sizes, your old clothes can't fit on wherever the case might be. I was like, oh God, come, I just need, let me just go and buy 2 dresses now. Like, you know, and I appreciate it, just the company going and say whatever, because, you know, part of everything that I think was a little difficult in dealing is like seeing your body as a woman, seeing your body as you have produced a child and then there's no child to show. So, you know, for some people, your tummy and go back down. If you come and you get stretch marks, your neck still black, your nose still big, your hands still, and you have to be trying to function, right? And knowing that you don't have the baby. You know, it's one thing you have all these things and you have your baby. And I said, no, well, I just give birth, you know.
The baby is a distraction, you know. I tried to think about that, but
yeah, you have not right. But you know, to know that you look everything like a pregnant woman. You would have lost a baby and then you have no child to show it, you know. So I think for me, I really appreciated the persons who were just, you know, come, okay, we want to eat something. Well, I like to eat, so any offer to eat, I would go, willingly go, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, so I think that's how it went.
I guess it's important for your support system to know you as well, because you needed that, and then there are those people who would need, I suppose, to be away from people and so on. Last question as we close up. When you and your husband sort of finally came, but I know you traveled and you did all of that during like the walk, you know. So was there a time where you all kind of sat down? Well, you did say yes. You did say you all said we're not going to blame anybody. But I suppose coming back and going through the daily paces, like having to get up and go to work and so on. How did that experience feel? Did it feel a bit vacuous? Did it feel, you know, like if you still have to maybe force it through a bit? How did that experience feel, particularly for spouses?
I think, to be quite honest, we kind of have similar personalities, right? So he would have also really talked about it. So I can't remember like having like a sitting down and having like a direct conversation or saying, all right, this is how we, you know, going forward, or this is how we feel, however. But if I just bring up something and say, oh God, this pregnancy something, he would just respond. He would talk normal, like we would talk about it as a normal, like an everyday conversation. So it wasn't like an off-limit topic, but I was smart. There are certain parts of it I never raised because I didn't want to take him back there. So if I felt like there was a part that I wanted to talk, I'd call a girlfriend.
Right.
I didn't want to take him through that. And, you know, sometimes men might say, you know, okay, but deep down silently, you know, my brother and them, you know, I mean, it would have been nice for him to say, but I think we kind of have the same personality. So it wasn't really, as much as I talk about it, you know, if it raised up, he could just be like, a beautiful baby girl, you know, she was healthy. If you ask him today, he would tell us, healthy baby girl, you know, we lost the baby girl, you know, but I remember, God, this thing here comfort me. And he would tell you his experience, you know, from his side, like how he find comfort. So I can't remember like having a actual, you know, sit down conversation. But I think we just kind of understood each other. So like when we travel, you know, we just allow each other to be free. So wherever he wanted, if he wanted to walk here, run here, go on the park, run down, if you see craziness we do in the States.
Catharsis.
I just just had a joke on his side. I remember I said, wait, but this is mad people here. I remember we were in Tennessee, so it had this big park. I don't know if it's some kind of bird or something, but there's crawl and fly. I don't know if it's pigeon, but it was big. It almost looks like drakes, like almost like ducks, but then they would fly. I don't know what kind of. And my husband said, "Hey, let me go and run after them now." And we running after them and trying to play grabbing them and the flying way. And you know, all these white people just staring at me. Like I think we were legit mad, like behaving like we have no owners. Like when we travel, if you see, I can't show nobody. If you see the condition, the things we would wear, we socks high up here, and then we fit to wear for the same thing could be, and you know, we just I think allowed each other to be free. You know, and thankful as I say for the support system. So the persons who we went by, kind of fostered that too. So when we went anywhere we wanted to go, good, and we just allow each other to be mad. We really be mad like we had no owners, you know.
Yeah.
And I think just doing that because there's nothing to beg nobody to study your job. Who watching in this way, the trend who you know from in school, see and say, look, Miss Joseph here in this way. Is it none of that? See, go somewhere. I wore what I want. You know, I bought what I ate, we do all kind of madness. And I think that kind of helped to just allow it. So I think by the time we came back, the only decision we had to make was with regards to the apartment switch. And as I say, it wasn't really like a big conversation. I was like, you know what, I feel I don't even feel to come back in this apartment, you know, we could just go somewhere. And we drive in one day to this apartment, asked them to say it was available, and we moved. It wasn't like a preconceived thing.
Just in natural flow.
Part of the moment. And I think he, to be honest, I think he did it. He might not really have a problem going back to where we were, but I think he did it with me
to support you.
You know, as a means of support. And and he tried to facilitate anything that we needed for the move and stuff. He tried to facilitate, and he'd say, "You're good, yeah, thing whatever." And when I think something, I'll come and show him all the things I buy, and he would sit down and listen to me. Although he probably don't want to see them, I'd be like, "You find this cute, this and this much of one thing." And you think he might just take like 10 minutes with me and go on. But you know, I think he allowed me to be, you know, to be
that's amazing. It's amazing, the catharsis. And I think one of the things you see you're talking about there, so many people don't necessarily have that. You had an important part of your healing and working. Yes.
No, I just can't reiterate that. You see, the support went a long way, you know. And I mean, I shudder to think persons who go through situations like this and do have, you know, the support, you know. So it's just a shout out to anybody. If you know somebody going through this, don't try to support in the way you want to support, but support them in a way that they want to be supported. Know, and that is because you might think the person needs this and they don't really want that, you know. Just go with the flow, how they want to support. No, you just have to have a rain check here, somebody who would kind of pull your back. But yeah, you have to know your role in the person's life, you know. But yeah, you just support in the way that they want to be supported, because you know yourself better than any you know, anybody else. So that was
I might need to take out that line and put it in writing for Tobagonians and Black Caribbean people. Support people in the way that they want to be supported. Don't impose. Don't impose your own thoughts on what they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to be doing it. Chevy, I enjoyed this conversation. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for reaching out and having it. What do you do with all them girl clothes though? You had an auction?
No, but some, to be honest, several things came out of this Stillbirth, right? So one thing I would have made a conscious decision, like anybody who I know was having a baby. I decided to be a blessing. So yes, I shop, but 50% of the things that I shop for, I would have been a blessing to other people. Right? The good stuff that I had that I didn't buy, because people will have bought them for me. I saved them because I believe when somebody gives you a gift, it's not to give away the gift. But if I bought stuff, like if I the stuff that I bought along the way, some of it I would have been a blessing. I still have my hope chest with good stuff, you know, hoping one day God would, you know, allow me to give birth to another child. So I do have another child now. I do have a son, right?
This
but
is the one that
hope test is
was
still pretty
conceived
good,
11 months
Yes.
after.
Yes, the 11 months, right?
Yeah.
And so so I still have the hope test for the girl because I would still want I would still love to have another child and
Right.
preferably a girl. But now but the thing is, I wanted a girl, but then like now as I have this boy, I was like, you see all this gangster, Ruffy and Chevy, like it just fall into place. I was like, and now I started thinking, Chevy, you sure you really want a girl? Because I keep pressing myself being gentle, you know. He's like a real trooper, you know. So I just feel like we could pump anywhere, you know, to anywhere. So like honestly, the fact of actually wanting to have a girl has kind of when I say subsided, it's like because of what I have now, as I say, you know, and what I have now and the babies, honestly, like his personality is really a joy, right? It kind of lessen. I think it's maybe when I have because I have, you know, the few sentimental stuff that I hold on to and whatever, you know, when you look at it, you know, you just desire to replace kind of what you would have lost, you know, because the thing is like a series and just maybe this had like a part 2, like a series and what you call it, birth after stillbirth, because you know that in itself was another whole experience, you know, with regards to that.
Yes, we definitely doing part 2 in some months or weeks.
Yes, so that was, you know, that was a whole experience in itself. But yeah, I still keep the few things, you know, having hope. I mean, honestly, if it doesn't happen, I think I reached the point where I could honestly just, you know, like be a blessing to others. So as I said, a couple things came out I intentionally would have, once it was around me and making baby, you get right up because them thing I buy, I just giving them away. So I didn't really keep it for myself. I think in the midst after it, I did write a book to my son, 7 lessons that I wanted to learn. I still have to order to print to get it printed. Well, you know, it's not an official book, but you could print it like in a hard copy version.
Yes,
and that was something that's sentimental that I wanted to, you know, that I did it in my grieving process, you know, like I wrote those, I wrote that book. I did some affirmation cards for kids, right, based on my beliefs. I would have written that and print them, and you know, so in the midst of the grieving, I tried to like channel the energy into something positive, you know, something to come out of it, you know. So a lot of it soon, you might probably see the material, well, like see the physical aspect of it. I would have shared it with other persons, like the hard copies and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was kind of, you know, I got you, but that's where we are at now, you know. But I just want to make this disclaimer, right? You know, for persons out there who are listening and could have lost, you know, a baby, I don't want you to think that anything is wrong with how you decide to grieve, you know. Just grieve the way that you want to grieve, you know. Don't do it according to standard. If you want to cry for 2 years straight, that's okay. You know, if you want to buy and fill up your house, that's okay. If you don't want to talk about it right now, that's okay. You know, do it on your own terms because everybody's situations and circumstances are different. So, you know, just do it on your own, but just be true to yourself. You know, that you are still struggling with this. You know, you don't have to pretend that you have it like all together. If today you're struggling with it, you know. You don't care about who says what, you know, just allow yourself to grieve in your own way. Because I believe like when the freedom comes, you're really free. You know, you wouldn't feel in a way to talk about it. You wouldn't, you know, when you come to that place of healing, it's different. There are some things, and the reality is that your experiences change you. And yes, you might say you're a different person before, and that's okay. I have changed. It has changed who I am. You know, certain core parts of me have changed. You understand, outlook on life have changed, and that's okay. Anything that doesn't change is the form. If I give birth to a baby and it doesn't change, it's the form. So you changing, nothing is wrong with that. You know, my hope is that, you know, the experience change you and change you for the better, to be more compassionate, to be more loving, to be more sensitive, to be more caring, and just don't take life for granted and have hope. Because I think, you know, God will bless you again and have another child. Have hope, don't lose hope. You know?
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we definitely, that's where I'm going to wrap it up. We had this discussion so that whenever you listen to this podcast, after you've listened to it, and you hear the nuggets and you agree, disagree, you internalize, you analyze, you roll it over in your mind, whatever you do. At the end of it, the whole point is so that you will be able to handle your business.
Handle Your Business, a weekly podcast discussing a little of this and a little of that. Handle Your Business appropriately blends serious topics with fun topics, all in an effort to help you have a good or better life. So join me, your host, Lady Lashley, and some amazing guests every Sunday at 5 p.m. to explore everything from financial management to dealing with relationship challenges. Put it in your calendar every Sunday from 5 p.m. Tune in to Handle Your Business to get you ready for the week ahead. For more details, follow at Lady Lashley TT on Instagram and Facebook.